I have a neighbor who belongs to another Mennonite church here in Goshen. She continually tells me how her church is growing and that she hears that many people are leaving College Mennonite Church. When Phil decided to leave, she told me that CMC probably can't hire a new pastor because of all the people that have left. I replied that the people leaving was not my main concern. I was more concerned about the people who have stayed. Well, Merle Hostetler met many of us, and he decided to come. He watched CMC as a neighbor for the last 25 years, mostly while pastor at East Goshen Mennonite Church. Prior to coming to Goshen, Merle was pastor at the Souderton Mennonite Church in Pennsylvania for 10 years. Merle grew up in Iowa, went to college at Heston, Eastern Mennonite, and Rosedale Bible Institute, and studied at Palmer and Denver seminaries. Sports were a big part of his life, and he still plays basketball, pickleball, and golf. Merle has been married for 33 years to Mary, who teaches first grade at Chamberlain Elementary School. They have 2 sons, we have a picture here, and currently 2 grandchildren. Merle, we look forward to learning more about your life faith story, your impressions of College Mennonite Church, and how we can support you over the next year.
Thank you, Mark. I'm going to pull this thing right up here. I'd use the music stand, but that's being used. I have this up here as our family picture. If you want to come, if you're in the back row, you probably can't see it. But it's our most recent one. And so you're welcome to look at that or anyway, that gives you a little clue of who I am. I'm not going to get into a lot of my background and things like that. I want to tell a couple stories today. But before I do that, just recognizing that we're coming out of a worship service where we each year remember those who've gone before us. And it's an atmosphere of respect and remembering, but also every year it catches me a bit. Because, and I think even especially in this class here, maybe even more than in my life, you're thinking back, you're reflecting back on your own life. And you're saying, who have I been? Where have I come from? And not just that, but who am I now? And how do we carry on this legacy of faith, this legacy of our families and of who we are? Upright people striving to do the right thing. And you look back on those people that have gone before us and you just say, thank you. Thank you. And with God's grace, we can do the same ourselves. And so I just want to recognize that. And I don't know how you all are engaging that. Maybe some of you very personally, very, very close to the heart. I just came back late last night. I'm thankful this is a hour change today. We got back late last night from Harrisonburg, Virginia. I was out there for a funeral. And remembered a woman, 97 years old, that lived full. And yet it was a hard one because life took a turn, has taken a turn for their family. 7 siblings, and they don't get along well. 7 siblings that are deep in faith, follow after Jesus well. All of them desire to, and yet there's something there that just is difficult. And so I come at it in a bit of that way today, just saying, what are some times that in my life life has taken a turn, has caught me off guard, and has not just taken a turn, but it's served to shape my life in a way that I wasn't expecting. Just like you could name things, times where your life has taken a turn and it has reordered your equilibrium. And so I want to tell a few stories like that today. Um, I call it my big. It's not an acronym. It's just they're big because they're influential. They are. This goes to sleep on me. Sorry about that. They go to these events catch us off guard, but they serve a purpose of helping us realize that we're not in control of our lives. And that we have to, if we're going to survive, we have to kind of flow with that sometimes. And for some of us, that's hard, and others, it's not. Um, they're watershed moments, they're milestones. And oftentimes we don't realize how they affect us until we look in the rearview mirror and see kind of how they've formed and shaped us. Sometimes it's in grief, sometimes it's in elation. Sometimes they're unexpected, sometimes you see it coming down the road. In 1969, my family of 6 children, I was in 4th grade at the time. Yeah, fourth, went 4th to 5th. We and as you can imagine, a 4th grader, I didn't realize kind of what was happening, but I just knew we were planning to move from Kelowna, Iowa, southeastern Iowa, to Albert Lea, Minnesota. And farmers, Dad sold the cows. Didn't sell the farm, kept the farm, but moved up, bought a house up in an area I'd never been to before. We had some really good friends of my parents who were there and had planted a church. And again, this is kind of knowing more in the rearview mirror, but they asked Mom and Dad and our family to come up and be with them in that venture. And as a 4th grader, you don't realize the price of that, right? Or the cost of doing that kind of a move. And truthfully, that is, it's actually was up with Levina's sister, was part of that family. Was that family up there. And so their kids were about our age. And so they asked Mom and Dad to consider that. And Mom and Dad did that. And you can imagine that kind of a move, how big that was. And that has formed my understanding of faith and has formed my approach to living more than I ever thought it would. Yesterday at the funeral, good friend of mine who is a sibling of this woman who passed away yesterday, that we remembered yesterday, remember saying, "Why was life so hard for you? You've told stories about how your life has been so hard. Tell me about it." And this 97-year-old woman, well, been in her early 90s at the time, just said, "I don't know. It was just hard." Well, what do you mean by that? I don't know. It was just hard. There's a generation I've experienced with my parents and others who, when you try to ask them, how did that affect you? Or what emotions did you have? Or how'd that affect your relationships? They have a hard time putting that into words. And this woman who passed away did the same thing. It was just, that was the way life was. And I think that's the way Mom and Dad were when we moved to Minnesota. We've asked them a number of times, why did you do that? Or how did that affect your relationships? And they just go, "Oh no, we just did it." And so I don't know how many of you could do a faith move like that and not really have an explanation for it. You just did it. That was what you did. And so that was one event that really formed my life. in ways, again, not at the time when I was in fourth grade necessarily, where I realized it, but afterwards. A second one that really was a big event in my life and Mary in my life was we got married in 91. And so I was about 30 years old. And we knew that we wanted to start a family pretty directly. And so we worked at that. And it didn't work the way we were hoping. And this is going down a road that maybe a lot of you have been down before as well, the road of infertility. And that's a long journey. And it's a journey that continues in a lot of different ways. But I just say that was a big turn, a big change for us, because all of a sudden those dreams, those expectations, those things that you did to plan ahead, all of a sudden went for naught. And it took a turn in a way that caught us off guard. Now, we knew it to a point because her sisters were also dealing with it. And so we had kind of known that there was some possibility there, but we didn't realize to what extent that would really affect us. For example, I was in the pastorate already. I was out in Souderton, and a place where I didn't just work, but we had very close relationships. That was probably the dear place for us, some dear friends. And yet Sunday mornings were one of the toughest places for us. It was tough to be in there and sit behind a family where there's a lot of children. It was tough to sit there during child dedications or during children's time or Christmas programs or whatever it was. And also I was on staff, so I couldn't just kind of sit in the back row, kind of pop in, pop out. And of course, Mary didn't feel that either. There was a number of times where she had to just leave. And what was so powerful is that while we thought we were alone, there was a lot of people that came around us in a variety of ways. I mean, Mary catch herself out on the steps and somebody just popped down beside her, and all of a sudden there was like a connection. We'd find notes in our mailboxes. And there was times where I would share a bit in the worship service about our journey, about the difficulty of it. You know, we were going through infertility. We'd run down to Philly to take tests and things like that. So we kept it pretty close to the chest, but sometimes we shared it. And the more we shared it, the more we were vulnerable and willing to do that, the more people came out of the woodwork and just said, us too. Maybe not the same, but we have this same kind of thing. Sunday mornings are tough for us, or our family doesn't understand, or people said the stupidest things the other day. Then also, with the same breath, and more so, people would say, yeah, there's people that care here. There's people that have stepped out for us. And so that was another journey that, these are our two boys. They're adopted. We moved from Pennsylvania to Colorado to finish my seminary. And it was out there that we met a young woman that chose our profile in the adoption agency. It was Ian's birth mother, just turned 16. And got to know her and her family. And then Ian was born, and he was a Colorado baby. We moved back here to Goshen in 2000 and 2002. We got connected with a young mother down in Noblesville, and got to know that family, and Austin was born. Ian's 26, Austin's 22, and Ian and Taylor are married. They have two little ones. And so it's not the way we planned it, but we can't imagine any other way. And so, Ian's a redhead. I have no red hair in my head. Now, Mary, she has some siblings that are redheads. So it's kind of interesting how that family dynamic goes. And then Austin is, oh, you look just like your dad. We don't tell the truth. We just they say, oh, thank you very much. So we have a lot to be grateful for. And in the journey, although it was a sharp turn, it was a turn that we weren't even though we expected it in some ways, maybe it was hard. And it continued to be one that formed us because it put us in touch with people that we would have never been in touch with otherwise. And so whatever your turns have been, sometimes it puts you in settings with people that you would have never met otherwise. And so that was an important piece. The last one I'll just say, and then I'll be glad to open it up. I'm open to any questions you would have or any thoughts you'd like to have ask as well. But I'll just say one thing that the journey, such as infertility and such as family moving to Minnesota, you come up against some emotions that you have a choice. You have a choice to face this with grace, or you can turn bitter, you can blame people, or you can carry it in a way that gives it back to God and just says, God, help me. Help me to be who you want me to be. Help us to be who you want us to be. Another experience that I had was in high school. I graduated in 78 from Iowa Mennonite School. So it's a Mennonite school, a lot like Bethany is. But you know, just because it's a Mennonite school or a faith-based school doesn't mean that they're without people who don't treat people very well, right? And every school, every church even sometimes, persons come away feeling like they aren't regarded very well or they are treated unfairly, that type of thing. Well, high school was that way. And I still remember there was a student a year older than me that treated me with contempt. He was very accomplished in what he did. He was an athlete. He was personable. He had the marks of a leader, someone that people looked up to. And yet, for whatever reason, Merle was the butt of his jokes. Merle was someone that he liked to squish in the dirt. And I still don't understand why. Really, I mean, I was ornery. I was not someone that thought before they spoke sometimes, things like that. And so I did say things that kind of got myself in trouble. But at the same time, to be bullied like that, and that word bully is used a lot in circles, in media, in schools, and it was hard. I carried a smile usually. I still was happy-go-lucky, and I kind of laughed it off, or I pushed back a little bit. But boy, inside I was torn up. And I still remember those times I was trying to find ways to pay him back. I love revenge, right? And even though I tried to make it a Christian revenge of some kind, whatever that might be. But it's like, how can he do that? And then as I paid attention to that, I felt like very lonely because I didn't say it a whole lot to other people. But then as the years have gone on and I've looked back, people often said, yeah, you were treated not very well. And so there was an acknowledgement of that, but it was a lonely time. And I realized that I kept it close and I didn't share about it. If I'd have shared about it in retrospect, as I looked in the rearview mirror, I probably would have had a lot more some help with that. But I don't even know if any teachers or people like that really picked up on it because it happened in the locker room, it happened in the gym, happened in the hallways, where it was kind of free of oversight. I thought I was past it. Well, anyway, I'll just say that has helped in coming into ministry, especially I spent a lot of years working with youth, with families, with children, and it really sharpened my desire to look out for people who are put under the thumb. It helped sharpen my desire to be an advocate for those who are picked on, those who are put on the edges, those who aren't accepted, those who are made fun of, whatever you want to put in there. And like I said, bullying is one of those things that is talked a lot about. And there's a lot of accusations in school settings. My wife's a teacher, and she knows that there's a lot of accusations by parents and things like that their kid is getting bullied and the difficulty of that for a teacher. And how do you deal with that? So I realized that. But at the same time, I came away deeply hurt. And it has been many times through those years since then that I've had to really work at forgiveness, at not wanting to pay back. And I thought I was pretty well by it. I'd been pastoring for a lot of years. I'd been in a lot of situations, people helping situations. And then I was back home one Christmas, and we were down at a local cafe, my brothers and I, My dad was in there back before he had passed away. And all of a sudden, this guy comes in with some of his family. He was from out of town now, but he'd come back and was visiting. And he saw my brothers and came over and just started talking. And what caught me off guard was that I was just like, I wanted to say something and get back at. I mean, it made me realize that this forgiveness piece is not a once and done thing. It's something I have to continue to choose in how I respond to him, but also in how I treat others. And so that formed like I said, my approach in ministry, my care for people, my compassion, but also made me realize that changed how I did school. When I was not only wounded, but I was made to feel inferior. I was made to feel less than. And it took away my confidence. It took away my desire to do things. I quit the basketball team because he was on the team. And I love playing. And yet it affected me. So what do you do with that? All those, as I look down through there, I say, what happens when you hit a circumstance in life and you are like, this is unnerving. This is pulling the rug out from underneath me. This is challenging me. And I just found that, first of all, and it's not just a soft saying, but my faith is huge in my life. And it has helped to shape who I am and who I desire to be. But the one that really stands out to me is that whole idea of trusting other people and trusting those things that are difficult in life, those sharp turns that we face, not to face those alone. And that's one thing I learned, is that people really do care. And there are people that if you're in solidarity with, that makes it cushions the blow a bit. I'll just say that. So, in the midst of all that, how does God show up? Well, there's a lot of different ways. I'm going to let it go at this point. If you have questions, you can do that. I'll just say that I feel privileged to be here at college. I look out and I see some people that I've met already, names I know. That most of you, I couldn't say all the names, but I'm working at it. And so I look forward. I'm signed on for a year at least. I'm in an interim role. I was there long term at East Goshen. Great years there. Great years in Souderton too. And decided to step away. Mary and I weighed this thing of, what do we do? When is the right time to step away in a pastoral position? You wait till people tell you to leave? Art, when did you leave? Did you leave before you were told to, or did you leave when you? I mean, I don't know. There's other pastors in here. It's hard. It's hard to know. And so, but anyway, interim work is something that really is feeding my spirit right now. And I love the walking with people, even though it takes work to get to know people. It's been good to hear stories already of life here. So I just open it up. John.
Say a bit about your call to ministry.
Okay. Call to ministry. I went to Heston in 81. I graduated in 81. So I went out in 79, and with every intention of being in ag business. Grew up on the farm. Agriculture was that was a sweet spot in my life. I realized it was tough. You know, the family farm, we didn't have a farm that'd be a sustainable place. So I was thinking of ag business. Well, I got there to Heston, and I ended up taking this course by Marion Bontrager. And it kind of pointed me toward ministry. So I was weighing it. I wasn't convinced. But that was kind of I kind of look back on that as a turning point. I could point at other things that affect that, but that was kind of a turning point. So then I went to EMU, and took Christian ministries and Camping Rec Youth Ministry as well. And from there, just kind of the things that come along when you start making that turn from where you were, all of a sudden things kind of start falling in different ways. And I just found that there was a lot of affirmation for that. And so, yeah.
If those on the Zoom have a question, just shout it out.
It is. Yeah.
Okay, good. All right, any other questions?
How many are pickleball players? Vic. Okay. Okay. Here's. No, he just said he was a pickleball player. They thought you were volunteering for something.
Dale Good, spent my Dale Good spent my career here at Goshen College, so I'm interested in your academics. Say just a little bit about your seminary experiences.
As I said, I went to Iowa Mennonite. I went to Heston, went to Eastern Mennonite, went to Rosedale for part of a year. So deeply committed and loving my Mennonite roots. When I was at Souderton for a while, and I wanted to finish my seminary. I'd been taking some classes at Eastern Mennonite Seminary as well as at what's now Palmer or Eastern Baptist in Philly. And so I chose to go. Denver Seminary had a prof there that I really resonated with, and of course, in May before we left, for the next school year, I left first part of the summer, but in May found out this prof had left that seminary. So, what do you do with that? And so went to Denver there, and I was really glad for that because I went out of the Anabaptist world a bit to do that. And some people have said, why do you do that for such a formative time in ministry? And I knew I was committed to the Mennonite Church, but the reason I did that, and it's more in retrospect than it was at the time when I decided to, is that I feel like we as a church are called to work at unity of the body. And I think it's really easy sometimes for we in our own separate denominations, Baptist, Conservative Baptist, Mennonite, Methodist, Assembly of God, whatever it is, to kind of think of we're kind of the centerpiece and others kind of fall in around us. And what does that mean to go to a Conservative Baptist seminary where there are a lot we have in common, but there's things taught and people who are there that just you wouldn't find at a Mennonite seminary, and so that was important. I really rubbed shoulders with some people that I never would have rubbed shoulders with otherwise, and so as I have come back here to Goshen and pastoring here, it's really important to interact with congregations, other churches in the area that are not Mennonite, and some that hold beliefs that are different than mine. For sure. But I just so that's a big part of my education as far as ministry training. Otherwise, I'm just trying to think if there's other things about my education that would fit that. But that's kind of been my journey. I would just say as well the seminary piece is one that I want to keep coming back to. I found if any of you who well, I guess in all professions, you need to keep learning. And so I'm really glad we're close to AMBS and can keep going. I can keep going back there. It's not just Pastors Week, but they have classes every now and then. There's seminars that go on, and I love learning. I love to keep learning.
Merle, now that you've been here about 2 months
Mhm.
and you're now an insider,
Yeah, really big.
what surprised you the most coming here to College Mennonite Church? Thank you, June.
June says that's repeatable. I realize that people hold opinions. Every church has that, by the way. I don't know. The thing I like about College Mennonite is that it's a wide variety of people that's here. Sometimes I hear people say, well, we are such an older congregation. in the midst of that age group, there's so much variety. And even though there's Mennonite, a lot of Mennonite, there is a lot of experiences that are represented here. I think more experience-wise, I've always found that when I've been in congregations in that the population of people that are that upper third or whatever it is, I do myself a disservice by not sitting close and listening and paying attention. And I hope that this space here is a space, whether it's this class or in the congregational setting, that you can be heard, that you can be listened to. And I don't know what that's like to, when I was out at the funeral this weekend, I ran into people that, grandchildren. And I just found that there was an openness to listen to experiences, because I was the same age as a lot of the siblings. And so they wanted to hear stories. They wanted to hear. And I just think that's the type of place I hope that college is for you all, is that you have people here who are willing to hear your stories and you hear your journey, and to learn that you are those saints that are going before us. You are the people that have lived life in a lot of different places, in a lot of different ways. And so I value that here. That's one thing I value. Does that get to what your question was? I wanted to make sure I'm getting the right one.
Merle, I really didn't know you until, and I got to know you better through a Rotary meeting of all places. You and Sid
figure.
and Gingrich, and you three guys put on a show for us at Rotary, a good show, talking about your days back in Iowa Mennonite School. You showed a very nice part of your background. Do you have anything more to say about that?
Yeah. I chuckle a little bit because I was at one of the Mennonite conventions way back in Oregon, 91. And I remember being out there, we were in Pennsylvania, and I remember the people from Indiana were arrogant. They came across us. Everything was about, go Indiana. Everything would come up and there was this like, rah, rah, Indiana. And it was kind of in fun, but after a while it got old. And so, like at this Rotary meeting, it just felt like Iowa and Iowa Mennonite was always kind of, oh, you're from Iowa, and kind of that Iowa cheer that goes with it and stuff. And yet I'm really leery of that, because the last thing I want is to be like, and I don't say about Indiana because we're here now, but just so happened that's what happened there. And every now and then you go, like if you're out in Pennsylvania, you have all the Penn State people go, or Phillies or something like that. And so I love talking about Iowa, but I'm always cautious because I don't want it to come across. Every now and then I hear these refrains around here like, oh, you're from Iowa, one of those people. And I know, and that's not what you're saying, Arlen. I realize that. Yeah, I understand that. So I say all that just to preface this. The thing that I really appreciate, I grew up in a large family out there. Well, it was average then, seven kids, farm family. There was a lot of people. The church was a very positive experience for me. Growing up in the Conservative Mennonite Conference. And it was a place where believe it or not, my leadership things were groomed well as a teenager. I didn't have to grow up first. I was asked to be a song leader. I was asked to preach one time. I was asked to be a part of a quartet. I was asked to, there's just a number of things like that it just really was a place that I thought fed well leaders. And truth be told, there's out of my home congregation, Sunnyside, there's a lot of Mennonite leaders that have come out of there. And if you want to know names, I can tell you names, but at the same time, I look at that as important for me. In the church, in the school, Iowa Mennonite was a smaller school. I felt like I was groomed in a lot of ways to be who I am today. Family, close family, and stuff like that. So I would just say those are a couple things, Arlen. John.
Merle, I think the real gift that you've given to us today is your vulnerability. And you can be honest with yourself and with us. And I think profoundly, that's a wonderful gift.
Thanks.
And I thank you for it.
Thank you. I had a time to visit with John this week, and He was my Revelation prof out at Heston. And he was also my next door neighbor the first year. I lived in Lancaster House, and him and Naomi, and lived right next door. And so who knew I would run into John like this these days? But I told him the other day, I said, Revelation, the thing that stuck out to me was the way that you focused on numbers and the importance of numbers in Revelation and the Bible. And that was memorable to me. And so I was glad for that. Thanks, John.
Thank you, Merle. I suppose even though you had a long day yesterday, you can stick around for a few
I'm
minutes.
good. I'm
Yeah.
good.
And if you want to go up and please take a look at the family picture, but we look forward working with you over the next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Uh-huh.
Thank you. Appreciate it.